myself away from it. Okay, let us begin. My presentation is about business level presentations. I'm not going deep into technical detail, and of course I don't have big technical knowledge in my presentation, but I will speak about the opinion of a person who is involved in the research of cyber crime from the point of view of criminologists. My background is such so that in the course of a number of years I was an employee of law enforcement agencies, and I was involved in issues of cyber crime, not academic ones, but applied, real ones, and applied from the point of view of criminalistics. The main idea of my presentation was the main case that happened was in September, where at the MVD side they say thanks to us for investigation of Pobelishi brothers case when they have stolen 13 million rubles. It was a confirmed damage from the biggest Russian bank, and there was a conviction, the first conviction in a phishing case, but it was a kind of a they have stolen 13 million rubles. That was confirmed during the research, but they have received something like 6 years in a minimum security. So it was a kind of a relative punishment. They didn't go to, they were not really punished. They didn't go to the prison. So we asked ourselves the question, why a person who did the same crime, have stolen a hat in the street and robbed somebody for a hat, gets, in 100% of the cases, he gets 2 years in the prison, minimum security prison, and goes there. And why does it happen that judges, people who steal 13 million rubles, they don't go to prison? So we've tried to compare, we tried to think how the cyber crime is different, and for them they have very soft punishment. How is it different from traditional crime? Traditional and non-traditional crime. So in the beginning we would like to look at what is traditional criminal group, and we will look on the basis of Black Cat Band. You remember this movie, Black Cat gang? There was an organizer, Gorbati Karp. He had people who discovered weapons. These weapons were stolen from military warehouses. Then they've been reselling these weapons. They had some people who've been showing the way. They had a industrial security group. They had a guy, Fox. It was a tough guy who was killing to the left, to the right. He was killing everybody. They also had Vera Madistka. She was holding the girls. And there was a provisioning group for this truck. And there was a universal person, Promokashka. That was a scheme of that gang, organized gang. And this organized gang was described by division of the roles, by specialization and common idea. So let's look at how does it happen right now with the cybercrime. What is the composition of the modern groups of cyber criminals? Same people. Organizer, he's always organizer. There's a certain person who is a mastermind. He is the end beneficiary, and he distributes those criminal profits to the group members. There are developers of this malware. Most of the modern cyber groups, cyber criminal groups that steal in big volumes, they all have private software. These are the same sunduks that deliver this private software, and they also have some people who organize cryptological service. They change the initial code of the software in order to obfuscate discovery by antiviruses. There are so-called verkomodistka proof hostings, and they are the holders of hosting where you can place the command center of this malware. And the employee of the law enforcement agency will never enter this facility. You can hold your managing service in these particular locations. So there are distributors, the team of provisioners. They are the same foxes, are professionals in the area of money transfers. So they know where the money will be sent from the victim's computer so that they would come to the accounts of cyber criminals as fast as possible. As fast as possible, they would be distributed to their plastic cards, and as fast as possible, you could cash them out so that security services would never catch this money. Usually these are former bank employees or very specialized people, and they are in a separate team, separate group, and it's a separate profession. Then they have a provisioning group, those people who are cashing this money in the same drops, promocash keys, without whom no criminal group will work without. All criminal groups are working with this. So it's a big structure, organization structure like traditional, mafia. Let's look on how do we identify traditional criminals and non-traditional cyber criminals. They all have similar attributes. When you search for traditional criminal, you make the photo robot, you look for fingerprints in the place of criminal action, you try to find their name, last name, usernames. Same for the cyber criminals. Photo from social networks, IP addresses, everything that describes them, but in some specific environment. What are the main motives? Both of them have the same motive. Enrichment. They do it for money. Tools. Traditional groups always use gun, knife, and this one use computer information. Many people think that cyber criminals use computer as a tool. No, computer, you can use the computer to hit somebody in the head. And computer information is their main tool for cyber crime. The way, well, violation, threatening, breaking, this one, hidden stealing, subjects, 1970s, purple, and this one is golden youth, as we call them. Many of them disagree with us. Many say that, well, cyber criminals are hackers. We disagree with that. And I'm trying to tell you why. Myths and stereotypes about hackers. Myth number one. Those who steal are hackers and fraudsters. If you will look at the history of hackers and everything that was written, filmed about them, you will see that hacker in this background is only one small specialization. Very often they are at the lowest stage, or maybe on the side. It's a service for them. It's a service provider. But the real fraudsters, they're not hackers. They don't even know anything about technical things. They don't search for vulnerabilities. They go to different forums, they read texts where they have described information, how can one steal money, and then they start stealing those money. And their main difference is that not technical knowledge, not deep technical knowledge, but ability to criminal action. This is traditional criminals, traditional criminals. Next one. Myth number 2. Hacker is a poor boy that's got lost in a society. He's doing something out of his house and he earns some little money on this. But if you will look at the screenshot, there was an internet site, downloadsnach.com. It's a screenshot, well, gives you a better perception of who are real cyber criminals. These are, how can I call them? You know, these are low technical level, but big desire to earn fast money without looking at somebody's interests. And myth number 3, cybercriminal is a modern Robin Hood who steals from rich banks and give this money to poor freelancers so they could write something for them, some code. Just recently, there was a story about networking hamsters who took the responsibility for attacks, DDoS attacks, against mass media sites. They have motivated it by their perceptions of what is right and what is wrong, journalistic ethics. But if you don't know the truth, what was behind those attacks against newspaper Novaya, you did hear the story about Spam House attack against Spam House, when representatives of Cyber Bunker got offended against Spam House, and in some time there was a strong DDoS attack with DNS preferred technology, which almost affected the whole Europe. It was a long story. When we've studied this attack, we have received certain pattern. So for the newspaper, they have used the same patterns. And if you look at the chronology of the attack that was taken by some activists like hamsters, those who are without money, you clearly see how the DDoSers act. Traditional actions, 30 minutes of test attack, you see the growth of the traffic against our protective equipment. Then 30 minutes they show to the client that they can do that. Then we see some period of drop of the attack, then the attack is being continued, and then while money is being paid, it's continued. So these attacks against mass media, they were pre-ordered. No hacktivism, no active social position was involved, and no poor boys were involved in that, no hamsters were involved in that. Those who ordered and those who executed these attacks, they've been acting on the basis of the profit they've been making on the basis of it. Another myth, cyber criminals don't make mistakes. These are some kind of sacred people who cannot be caught. Nobody can catch them, unidentifiable, and they can always escape the responsibility. Well, here's a screenshot took from the victim's computer, where for some reason we see a chat between two hackers, cyber criminals. One is organizer, another is executor, and the computer of the victim. And they are writing to each other and they comment. So they have made a fraud payment system. They want to send a big amount. And they are writing to each other and they're worrying, will this work? Will this amount go to the bank? On the computer of the victim, they have installed this software which periodically makes screenshots. They use a computer of the victim as a proxy. Through this proxy, they communicate in Jabber. They make their own screenshots and they keep screenshots on the victim's computer. Something like that. Funny. So if you will collect how the cyber criminal looks on the basis of a stereotype, it's a constantly person who likes adventures, person who wears hoods, has a high indicator of intellect, high IQ, and have received good quality technical education. These are main stereotypes. And during morning section, we've been discussing how young people with a certain talents, how can they become employees in this service. And the main recommendation was given to them, the main stereotype. Everybody thinks that as soon as you catch a person like that, he immediately has to be hired to the state by these authorities to break the enemies of our country. Honestly speaking, it's an absolutely useless myth. Those who are being cut and those who make 90% of these cyber criminals, most of them are some kind of office plankton who have some organizational abilities, and they distribute the money. They don't break anything. They use ready tools, and they, even if you will catch them, if you will take them to the state bodies of authority, they will only distribute the state money, nothing else. They will do it with a great talent, perhaps, and anonymously. But nevertheless, this is the main stereotype being visualized. This picture should be bigger. There should be also a computer and a woman. But unfortunately, I didn't get the screenshot for certain reasons. But that's how in most of the cases, that's what people think about hackers. Main reasons why people think about hackers like the deficit of information. Everything is very latent. Nobody discloses the information about what was stolen from them, who stole it from them. Very few successful cases, no research about psychology, etc., etc. Secularization of computer knowledge. What amateurs think about when they hear about hacker. Oh, it's a person who knows how to pickpocket through the wires. With the help of some big talents, he can do absolutely magical things, they think. Well, the final thing, active work of mass media in Hollywood, when all these hackers, my favorite screenshots, you know, walls of the screens and people who work in these rooms with many screens, not in the cafeteria, not through mobile modems, in some some small laptops, big walls and brute force of long passwords, 128-byte with a keyboard. And I'm in the system. To the CIA in connection, I have entered. Well, this is Hollywood. And I did hear that creator of whatever the name, Nmap, was dancing a root dance when for the first time, when he's seen the Matrix and when he's seen that Trinity starts his product, and with the help of this product, she scans networks and finds vulnerable ports. So in Matrix, it was filmed great. Then if you look afterwards, Swordfish, they show beautiful graphical interfaces, satellites, etc., etc., etc. Hollywood helps us with this. And that's how real hackers look like in real life. Astonishingly, two words, he cannot connect two words, he cannot say two words, but when he communicates in the network, he's God. He's the mastermind. He's the organizer. Yes, he's the organizer. He can break anything. His own door he can break. He doesn't write share code. He just simply has big motivation, big patience, so that once after once after once to find topics how to earn money without leaving his apartment. Well, we did clear who are the hackers, cybercriminals. We already know who are the cybercriminals. Let's go to the next part. What do we get in result? We have cybercrime, which is the same organized crime, but with some small add-on. What kind of an add-on they have? Why, some wear purple jackets and tough personalities, and other guys, intellectuals, and they don't go to prison. What is the main difference between these two criminals, even though both of them, they look similar? There is some difference which everybody thinks is different. It's a cyberspace. Some people act in the physical, tough world. We are used to them, and other ones are acting in the environment which is called cyberspace. And this cyberspace overlays very big footprint on how these people are being perceived, and in result, the way how they pay for the same illegal actions. What is a cyberspace? Well, cyberspace was invented, as I understand, by futurists. Well, by Gibson, who was writing interesting books, and he has invented the cyberspace. Then, when this cyberspace was invented, everybody just didn't think about it and just called cyberspace a cyberspace. What is a cyberspace? Well, it's not the internet. The Supreme Court of the United States of America gave an interesting definition. I will not exactly copy it, but it sounds like cyberspace is some kind of a virtual space which doesn't have a geographical location, and everybody can enter it through the internet. So what is the conclusion we may come to from this? The main conclusion is the following, that Americans do not perceive this term and this environment for operation as something connected to physical borders of various states. What is the consequence of this statement? That they can operate on this whole space irrespectively to where the elements of this space are located, irrespectively to geolocation. Logically, server in Russia, no, it's not Russia, it's in cyberspace. And you can do certain actions with it. And this concept of one of the countries. In some other countries, they develop similar concepts and new understandings. Why do they develop these concepts? Why? Because Americans are so evil and they want to control the whole world? No. They know what is a Russian cybercrime, and they know why they act this way and not the other way. Cybercrime uses main vulnerabilities of the current approach to perceiving computer criminalistics. Well, computer crime. The first is a transborder character. For the cybercriminals, borders don't exist. His server can be in the US, his RDP in Netherlands, he is located in Ukraine, and at any moment of time he can get in his car and move to Russia or to Kazakhstan or somewhere else. Where the borders exist? Borders exist for the law enforcement agencies. They have jurisdictions in which they have to act, and they cannot simply as that get in touch with their colleagues in another country and say, hey, at this moment a cybercrime is being committed, can you quickly catch them? No. At the other end of the wire they will hear cybercrime, but we have signed an agreement. Can you send us certain protocol? Can you deliver it to the Supreme Court in your country, and this Supreme Court will take your report, will transfer it to our Supreme Court, it will review it, and then it will give it to us. But in principle, we have FBI, CIS, and some of us will get it. Some of us will get it, and someday we will get this document. And this transborder time lag kills the international cooperation in the area of investigations. What else? Virtuality. Virtuality of proof. What cybercriminals use? What do they use? The fact that information lives very short time. Logs are stored at the basis of provider. Somewhere it's regulated, somewhere it's not regulated. But some of you, can you remember how the content of logs in Romania is regulated? Nobody can say that. So all these, well, cybercriminals use all of this to be successful, and as soon as they are being caught, they put this stereotype of poor smart boy who suddenly is being broken and he receives no prison time. So we find ourselves in a situation when on one side our companies, our citizens, our state organizations are threatened by highly motivated organized criminal groups, and they know everything on how to steal money. But on the other side, problems with national legislations, problems with international agreements also makes a footprint and makes these groups even more powerful. So what do we have on the other side of the scale? What can we put on the other side? First of all, national competent law enforcement agencies that have to fight against them. But these national competent law enforcement agencies, well, in our country, we have about 100 people of them. UPRAF, BSTM, in the federal service, then some other departments. No more than that. There's a lot of companies that are being threatened every day. So physically, they cannot process all this information. Not enough. Just last winter, there was interbanking forum, and representatives from law enforcement agencies just said from the in the microphone, they say, if you will all write to us, it's going to be DDoS. Can you find expert organizations? Can you write to them? They will make a research, they will aggregate this data, and then come to us. So knowing this problem, knowing this story, we have decided to build our own counterweight to cyber criminals, some cyber detectives department that will strengthen the position of good guys against bad guys. And I will tell you a couple of words about how it looks like, how these cyber detectives look like. Well, just like basic education. So who are they? In our understanding, cyber detectives, first of all, are criminalists. There are two approaches. You know, technical people should be taught how to catch the criminals, and the second approach, those who catch the criminals, let's educate them in a technical sphere. So we went in a second way. We have hired former operatives, former investigators, and then we hired analytics in different areas. But those analytics are very specific people. They speak in their own language. It's their language. And no normal person can listen to their slang. Well, as a consequence, we took the investigators who usually translate from one language, from human language, into the particular language. Never have you ever read documents, court documents? Have you ever read court documents? You know, any serious court document that, you know, lawyer can even get into. You know, even trained investigator, after 2 minutes of reading it, he will fall asleep. These investigators, well, investigators, they translate from this language into the analytical language. Well, they came with this package, then they go to the other package, then they translate into the human language, in a number of cases to official court language, and then those investigators, they do know, operative workers, they do know how to catch the bad guys. With all their problems. So, who does what? How these cyber detectives work? I'm not going to speak about methodologies. The more I will speak about methodologies, the more difficult it's going to be at work. I'm not going to cut the tree trunk on which I sit. Well, usually we divide into personal technical analysis and financial analysis. Financial analysis, it's understandable to follow the money, and then you will find the source, you will find the endpoint, and then this rule also has follow the woman. But nevertheless, in the cyber environment, we have seen on a picture of that cyber criminal, you could see that he has some problems with women. I think it's much more difficult. This is not traditional criminals. So, technical analysis. No, not in this sense. Technical analysis, that's understandable. I will speak in more detail, and then of course personal search, the data mining as we call it. Yes, of course, by nicknames, emails, messengers, account data in the form of social network, blogs, electronic currency, etc. And data mining may be continued. So the main principles, internet remembers everything. If you did something wrong in internet, it will always become known. Earlier or later, we'll discover it. And the second principle, there is not too much of analysis. Excessive analysis will always give a result. And methodologies. How these cyber detectives do this job. Usually they have field trips when you need to collect artifacts, you have to fix like fingerprints, you have to collect all the you have to follow all these karmic things in order so that on the stage of the court meetings nobody would think that those who've been collecting this data, they've been writing this data in a computer of the victim, these viruses themselves. Usually specialized equipment is used. Those who are involved in this, they know what is this, but usually this is all being fixed, and these are international practices, and these things are accepted as a proof in the court, and it's very difficult to say something against them. So what else can I say about it? 99% of incidents are related with malware program code, malware software. That's why we see the antivirus lab is involved in these private investigations. Malware investigation, the main stages of it, well, that's understandable. We search how it was managed, because malware usually does not behave alone. It usually has a link which connects it to the team managing servers, to control and command and control service, the source of malware, then identification of this malware. Maybe you have seen something. Masha, hello. We're waiting for you when you will give us the analysis, next analysis, yes, and functionality analysis, what it does, then the footprints that were left in the system, artifacts, etc. Then there was a presentation by my colleague, Alexander Gostev, and they have shown which artifacts are left in the system, and these are cyber warriors, but with the criminals it's the same thing. Then the data mining stage, when the data is being collected, then they dig, analyze in order to get the result. What else can be discovered in the internet from this point of view? Because in the internet there's a lot of information, and the initial analysis of the initial information, when we interview those people who we visit, was them, tell me please, when the money have left but you knew nothing about it, didn't you have a feeling that something is wrong with this money laid in your accounts? Well, it's a stupid question, right? But honestly speaking, in many cases it tells me, yes, at this moment of time computer was kind of hanging. It was really hanging, you know. Oh yeah, let's look what was really happening in the parallel remote management. Well, that's it. So this questioning, yes, we have special questionnaires, we have methodologies when we try to discover from unclear explanation those people who are not computer professionals, and we try to extract some useful information from them. Then we get certain result which can be interpreted, it can be final result or the intermediate result, which also transfer us to the next stage of investigation, and next until we find what we're looking for. Whom do we need in our profession? It's not a secret that computer detectives, there are few of those who understand the topic, those who have the experience. We need people. Which skills and who can come to this profession, which I'm thinking it just being developed and it's just at the stage of its birth. So, former forensics. Well, the best prepared are the foreign forensics, people who know how to do something, how to search for somebody. Next one, reversers, so-called reversers. Well, reversers are everything. Reverse engineers. These are people who know the programming code, who have the good imagination, not just to write code, not to look where I'm looking at and see what I see, but also look deeper to show some creative abilities, creatively approach this work, assume what could this mean and what could lead to certain results. Then penetration testers, well, that's understandable because it's always network infrastructure is always involved, package movement for back and forth, and organization of management control panel. Everybody's interested in it. And analytics from different environments. For example, we have people who are business analytics, who follow the money. Their brains work totally differently. If you will try to translate what they give as a result into normal language, you will hear very interesting results. And we have people who come to us who were taking very high positions in traditional businesses, and for them it's much more interesting to catch those cyber criminals, analytics, who have skills of visual analysis, etc., etc. Analytics are very important. Wait with the questions. What is the main conclusion that we can make out of it? If we, on one side of the scale, we have cyber criminals and their ways of getting around or maybe using some errors in topology of the global network or something like that, such a kind of a powerful who can abuse. And on the other side we have law enforcement agencies which don't have enough people, some cyber detectives which are few, which allows us to balance this scale. We can use the same cyber space to catch them. And there are first signs for this. If the cyber criminals use trans-border approach in order to complicate the search and being caught, we can use this trans-border space to start criminal cases in the places with a stronger jurisdiction, with more powerful legislation, and then finding criminals there, give to the law enforcement agencies where it was started. How can we get around the transborderness? For example, the Kaspersky Lab is a transnational company. What do we do? How we get around this transborder problem that everybody hate? You know, we cooperate with law enforcement agencies in all countries of the world which are interested in this, with Americans, with Brits. We have local offices in Germany, in Poland, in Russia, and of course we do connect 1+1. We make this investigation process a continuous one and not limited by borders. Therefore, same things, the fact that cyber criminals use against, we can use for the good. So my main idea that I wanted to say right now, we cannot say that one of the sides prevails. We cannot say that one side has better tools and they're in better condition. We're in dynamic equilibrium. And the more people will come to this business of cyber investigation, the more professionals we will acquire, the more successful we will be fighting against cyber criminals. But cyber crime shouldn't have, we shouldn't have illusions. Cybercrime is a social action, it's a social fact. It means that it will be present in the human society. There always were criminals. You cannot remove all the criminals, but you have to learn how to defend yourself from their actions, and this is what we are doing. Well, questions? I don't know. Well, stand up and ask your question. Ask into the microphone if it works. You can scream. Why should you walk back and forth? Hello. My name is Pavel. Well, the question is about the following. The main objective, according to the Criminal Code of Russian Federation, the guilt is defined by the court, right? Right. The main result of any investigation activities, etc., etc. As a former employee, you know what it is. You have to collect all the proving data. So to the question, what do you use? There is a favorite word, forensics. There are international methodologies in forensics. There are Israeli, Chinese, American methodologies, different, no Russian methodologies. So I have a small applied experience. I've been doing an expert assessment. That picture that you've been showing, well, the tree cutter, like analytic. Yeah, wood cutter. That's what I wanted to say by this picture, definitely. Because the final word is in the hands of the court, as I think the main problem is professionalism of judges. Because, you know, speaking about fighting cybercrime, you have to train professional lawyers in this area and professional judges in this area for whom, you know, the documents, the words like C++, program files, disk C will not be some empty sound. And the question is, the methodology that you use, that Russian legislation and court system accepts. Okay, let's... maybe I've explained it in the wrong way, but honestly speaking, everything that we do is not a collection of the proof base while reacting to the incident. First of all, we have to determine, before collecting evidence, was there an action of third entities, was there involvement of third parties. After we define was there an involvement of third parties by some means of technical analysis, simple analysis, we inform our client about that. We say that there was such kind of a malware, there was an action of third parties, then the victim takes a report, writes a report, request to the law enforcement agency, and with these two documents goes to law enforcement agency. Yes, and from this moment on and until investigation, you will see certain actions on the collection of the evidence, but this is done by law enforcement agencies. We are not subject of law enforcement agencies, and we are not even experts from this point of view. We are investigators with those who search by the technical means and other means. So who will write the materials? Well, all the materials are registered by the law enforcement agencies. So from unknown language of analytics, and then this is being transferred. Yes, we can help them. We can provide consulting to them. And no, of course it is being signed by other people, but speaking about technical specialists, if they will try to involve us, they will give us for these, you know, those people who hired us. Yes, we of course can help them, but nevertheless, this is done by law enforcement agencies. We just help them. And investigation methodologies. Yes, we have internal methodologies for investigations. We do the investigation activities, we develop those methodologies, but these are internal methodologies that are not signed by some law enforcement agencies. Maybe we will transfer them, and maybe very soon, to the Institute of Retraining for Law Enforcement Agencies, where on the basis of our methodologies, they will develop their own methodologies, then they will confirm them, approve them, we'll receive the result, they will speak about. But honestly speaking, our methodologies are our methodologies, investigative methodologies and preventive methodologies. Well, then, a following question, your opinion. If you will take classical criminal world, for example, giving physical injuries to a body of another person. If it's a heavy or not heavy, of course he's punished for providing this physical damage, bodily injury. So should there be a certain experience where the case should be initiated, criminal case should be initiated? For example, the information was provided in mass media that somebody was robbed through the internet. Should this information be used as evidence from the public delivery, or as it is being done right now, that final decision is done by the business owner? I will explain. In my experience, there was a case when the business owner have carried certain losses. A certain organization was hired, which has done all the investigations, have prepared the document that have to be given to the law enforcement agency, and after this, the business owner said, well, let's forget about it, and they forgot about it. Well, speaking about this question, speaking about my private opinion about this, the limitation of freedom of expression and some additional load on the business should not be available. If he doesn't want to pursue, he can go without pursuing it. That's his full desire. If he was writing off this damage to some uncertainty, well, this is his problem. The less limitations we will provide on people who earn honest money, who earn our gross revenue in the country, let them do it if they do it legally. Well, another problem is that our legislation is imperfect. We're not legislators. We can suggest something, what can be changed in this legislation, and we do such research, but this is a step-by-step activity, and these changes are happening, and earlier or later they will be adopted into our legislation, and our legislation will be improving these realities. But this, strict form of, money was stolen, and we will tell the whole internet about it. Why? Why? Well, let's model a situation, for example, a bank. Not Bonnie and Clyde was robbed, but in the cyberspace, a bank was robbed from the accounts of many users, and it became a public information. And basically speaking, people who deposited their money suffered. They were final victims. Which actions? And business owner, bank owner will say, well, I will pay my premium, that's it. Well, there could be a lot of situations, and right now a new law about national payment system was developed, and Article 9 about repayment of the damage to people who suffered in the results of fraudsters' actions. It will be introduced in January of the next year, so it all has regulated in which case it has to be repaid, in which cases they have to be informed about their money being stolen. We will see what will happen when it's going to be enacted. Thank you. Thank you. Alexander, perhaps you did talk to field investigators from other countries. Can you tell us about statistics, how they're doing this, how many people are put to prison, who are not put to prison, how actively companies use the services of cyber detectives, and how the situation develops there? Well, speaking about statistics, I don't like the statistical departments because there's a small lie, there's a big lie, and there are statistics. There is nothing indicative about it. Yes, speaking about them, yes, of course, they have countries with strong jurisdictions where fraudsters, they get big terms in prison, but you can read about it in the news whether a person decides to go to the United States and carry all the accountability for what they have done. Well, it happens in other countries. They have other legislation. Somewhere it's more strict, somewhere it's not strict at all. But we have no detailed statistics. There is no central body which collects these statistics. There are no rules on basis of which everybody have to inform everybody about what they have done in this area. There are separate press releases about some victories. And cybercrime is a topic, very latent topic, and not many people speak about it, and that's why we have what we have, not real prison terms, and understanding that, honestly speaking, we punish the golden fund of technical